We think of the internet as this vast, infinite space, an endless library of information where anything is just a click away. But how much of what we know about the internet is an illusion? Is it really as open, free, and uncontrolled as we believe? Recent theories, like the dead internet theory, claim that much of what we interact with online is fake. It suggests that bots, automated systems, and AI-generated content are filling the web, replacing real human interactions. But if that's true, it begs a much bigger question. Who's behind all of this? And more importantly, how much control do they have? The truth is, the internet isn't some mystical force that exists in the cloud. It's rooted in real infrastructure and physical cables laid crisscross oceans. As you send a message, post a video, or browse a website, it's easy to overlook the intricate web of technology beneath your fingertips. Every action, every click, is routed through an internet service provider, ISP, the invisible gatekeeper that controls access to the digital world. Behind the scenes, vast data centers process and transfer trillions of bytes, ensuring the constant flow of information across the globe. But what happens when the entities that control these systems decide to restrict your access? We're seeing it happen right now all around the world. In Russia, after the invasion of Ukraine, the government clamped down on internet freedom, blocking platforms like Facebook, YouTube, and Google. Entire networks vanished overnight. In China, it's been happening for years under the Great Firewall, with millions of websites filtered, censored, and outright banned. And in Palestine, during times of conflict, we've seen complete internet blackouts, whole populations cut off from the outside world. These aren't isolated incidents, they reveal a troubling truth. The internet is far from untouchable. So let's break this down. What exactly allows these governments and corporations to wield such power over the internet? It starts with the ISPs, the companies that provide the very foundation of your internet access. Every time you connect to the web, you're going through an ISP. These companies own the infrastructure, the cables, routers, and servers that allow your device to communicate with the web. If they block a website, slow down a service, or restrict certain content, there's not much you can do, but that's just the start. The global connectivity of the internet relies on thousands of miles of undersea cables. These fiber optic lifelines carry data between continents, allowing us to communicate across borders. But here's the catch. These cables are owned and controlled by a handful of corporations. If they fail or are intentionally severed, entire regions can lose connectivity. And it's happened before. In 2008, cables in the Mediterranean were damaged, cutting off large parts of the Middle East and India from the global web for days. It showed just how vulnerable the system is, an infrastructure that can be disrupted with a few cuts or strategic failures. These corporations and governments control the physical backbone of the internet. While the idea of a free, borderless web is appealing, the reality is that the pipes through which the data flows are tightly regulated. In fact, internet access in many parts of the world is just one flick of a switch away from being shut down or filtered. And then, what about the dark web? Many believe it's a space where anonymity reigns, immune to the restrictions of the surface web. But the truth is, even the dark web relies on the same physical infrastructure as the regular internet. The same ISPs, the same cables, the same servers. If those are cut off or restricted, even the most hidden parts of the internet become inaccessible. It's happening more often than you think. In Myanmar, during political unrest, the government cut off internet access entirely to stifle protests. And in Belarus, opposition activists found their online communications blocked or censored. And more recently, in Sudan, the internet went dark amid military coups. This isn't just about technicalities, it's about control. Governments and corporations have learned that by controlling access, they can control information. They can shape what you see, what you don't, and ultimately how you think. And this brings us back to the dead internet theory. If much of what we see online is now controlled by automated bots and fake content, who's generating it? And more importantly, why? If governments and corporations already control the infrastructure, what's stopping them from using this power to flood the web with false narratives, distractions, or propaganda? What if many of the accounts we interact with, those arguments on Twitter, those viral trends, aren't even real? Could we ever fully break free from this control? It is unlikely that we'll see a world where the internet is entirely without oversight. The infrastructure that supports the web, the cables, servers, and providers requires organization and management. However, there are movements toward decentralization, like blockchain technology and peer-to-peer networks, offering glimpses of what a more open internet could look like. But even these alternatives have their own limits. The physical infrastructure remains crucial, and without it, the web cannot function, no matter how decentralized its software or protocols may be. The idea of a truly autonomous web sounds ideal, but the reality is much more complex. So while we might dream of a fully free and self-sustaining internet, the truth is, it will always require some form of structure to operate. The question isn't so much about breaking free entirely, but rather how we can shape the systems that control it in ways that benefit more people. As the internet continues to evolve, it's important to remain critical of who controls the access and flow of information. While we may not be able to fully escape the power structures behind the web, we can stay informed, question the status quo, and push for greater transparency and accessibility. In the end, the internet's future will depend on how much we value that freedom and what actions we're willing to take to preserve it.